Let's begin with the formation, which is one of the best for attacking. It's easy to build up with, and you can also use it effectively for counterattacks. The formation I'm talking about is the 4-4-1-1. Alongside the 4-4-2, the 4-4-1-1 is one of the meta formations in FC26. Now, let's go through the best roles and tactics. For the build-up style, we'll go with short passing because in this game, passing is extremely effective. For the defensive approach, set it to high with a bit of aggression to keep the pressure up. When it comes to player roles, both fullbacks should stay on fullback and defend. We want to maintain a solid back four. The two midfielders should be set to box with balanced instructions. This allows them to contribute both defensively and offensively. The wingers should play as inside forwards on balanced, giving them freedom to cut inside and support attacks. For the cam, set him to shadow striker with an attacking role. He's crucial for those quick transitions and link-up plays. Finally, your striker should be set to advanced forward and attack. That's the setup for our meta formation and tactics. Now, the simplest and most meta skill move right now is the Baba Spin. It's a 4-star skill move, very easy to learn and extremely useful in matches. To perform the Baba Spin, flick the right analog toward the direction your player is facing, then flick it to the left or right, depending on which direction you want to exit. You can also cancel this skill. Once the animation begins, hold L2 and R2 while aiming the left analog toward the initial direction. This cancels the move and looks very smooth in-game. Here's how it works in real play. You can use the Baba Spin to cut or change direction while sprinting, especially when being chased by a defender. It helps you break away, open up space, and create a better shooting angle. Another great use is canceling it mid-animation. This tricks your opponent into committing their defender the wrong way, letting you move into the open space. The Baba Spin is simple to perform but extremely effective, especially when you master the canceling technique. We have the low-driven shots, one of the meta shooting techniques in FC26. These are low shots where the ball moves along the ground with no elevation. To perform it, simply double-tap the shoot button. You press it once to load up the power, make sure the power is enough, then press the shoot button a second time to activate the low-driven shot. It's powerful and fast. You can also perform a low-driven finesse, where you hold R1 and shoot to load up enough power, then press the shoot button again to activate a low-driven finesse shot. So how do we use it in-game? Here, I get inside the box. When shooting, one of the basic principles is to face the goal. So here, I make my player face the goal properly. These are the hit zones where you can use the low-driven shot while facing the goal. The player's body has to be facing the goal exactly, then you're good to go. Also here, I pass, face the goal. I'm a little bit far away from the goal, but if you face the goal like this and load up enough power, it always goes in, unless there's any goalkeeper movement. Then here, as I dribble, I can't shoot from this position using the low-driven shot because I'm not facing the goal. So I take another touch to position the player's body toward the goal, then another touch to dribble away from the tackling angle of the approaching defender, then shoot and score. As you can see here, as long as you're facing the goal, it's a guaranteed goal. So when you're not facing the goal but still can see the goal, like in this position, you use the low-driven finesse shot. But take these from the right zones, making sure you're shooting across the goal, and the power has to be on point to beat the goalkeeper. In this example, I use the low-driven finesse shot. As we said, it's best in these zones, only if you're not facing the goal. But if you are facing the goal, like here, you can take it from anywhere and boom, you hit the net. Also here, I control the ball but I can't shoot because I'm facing away from the goal. The low-driven shot is tricky, so I take a touch, line up with the finesse angle, shoot, and score. Sometimes you don't need to force analog dribbles. Like here, I'm facing away from the goal, it's hard to score. So I perform a ball roll, get positioned in an open angle toward the goal, and score. In FC26, the most effective and unstoppable dribbling method is the controlled sprint. Not just spamming the button, but using it in proven, effective ways. To perform the controlled sprint, hold R1 while dribbling. Your player keeps the ball close to his feet but still moves with speed. For more accuracy and consistency, use players with the technical playstyle. But even if they don't have it, you can still use this technique very well. There are two techniques you use when dribbling with the controlled sprint. One is the zigzag style, shifting the ball from left to right and changing directions, and two, mixing it with left analog dribbling. We're going to look at how it's done. So here's how we can use the controlled sprint effectively in-game, starting with exploiting open spaces. Since your player moves with speed and close control, it's the safest and fastest way to exploit spaces without risking heavy touches. For example here, getting through on goal, I see the opponent overcommitting to block the anticipated shot, so I break and leave the opponent moving toward that angle, opening up space. Seeing this fullback as a potential next opponent to switch to, I decide to use the controlled sprint to exploit this space as quickly as possible, not too slow to let the fullback close me down, and not too fast like a normal sprint where I could take a heavy touch and lose control of the ball. Just like that, I dribble through the space and score. Now, everyone is using their midfielders to defend, and the controlled sprint is the best way to move forward and exploit the spaces left by their uncontrolled center backs. If you want to use the controlled sprint to beat defenders, use the technique called zigzag dribbling. One dribble to bait the opponent into tackling or committing in a certain direction, then the other to burst away and dribble into space. This is very powerful against defenders who step out of position. We have those opponents who are naturally aggressive. In the midfield, you just dribble away but forward. Like here, the opponent is approaching, so I dribble toward the open space using the controlled sprint, moving away from the defender's direction. Controlled sprint is the best tool to deal with aggressive opponents in FC 26. Controlled sprint mixed with analog dribbling is a menace, a very hard combination to deal with. For example, here, I fake like I'm cutting inside, seeing the opponent ready to react to that. So I use the controlled sprint to exploit the open space. But I know he'll run back with his defender, so I use the controlled sprint to lure him into that direction. The moment I see he's overcommitting, I break using the left analog, as you can see on the controller input here. And boom, the defender is gone. That's the power of controlled sprint. You either exploit space or lure in the defender. Here, I have a running player, and as I move forward, I'm ready to exploit this space using the controlled sprint. The opponent selects his center back. In this situation, a player ready to defend this run should be using his fullback, but since he picked the center back, I know he's going to press. So I dribble with one touch to lure him in, then use the left analog to break, as you can see here. And just like that, the defender is out of the picture, and I play a through pass to my winger and get in behind. Keep that in mind. If you want to lure your opponent into overcommitting with his defender, use fewer touches. Last example, I see this space, and I try to use the controlled sprint to invite the defender, but he seems too passive. So I take another controlled sprint touch forward. Here, opponent is giving space, afraid to come out, so I need to make him overcommit. I perform quick dribbles, faking like I'm cutting to the right, then forward. After that, I use the controlled sprint again to move forward with speed and shoot, and I score. These fake dribbles were meant to trick him into moving left, but even though he didn't overcommit, they made him hesitant. And because of that hesitation, when I accelerated with the controlled sprint, he couldn't block the shot. Through passes are meta in FC 26. This is one of the most dangerous attacking passes in the game. We all know how a through pass is performed, triangle. Right? So first of all, when you want to play a through pass, you need a player making a run. You can trigger that run manually. One way is using the pass and move technique. Press L1 plus X to make your player run forward immediately after passing the ball. Then you can send him a through pass. Or you can send an off-ball player on a run. Just aim your left analog toward that player and press L1. The player will instantly start sprinting forward. The next step is aiming and loading the right power. With through balls, you have to make sure you're aiming toward the direction of your running player or the open space. And I'll explain when to use each. But first, let's talk about aiming directly at your player, since that's the most common. You need to load enough power to make sure the ball travels cleanly toward your runner. Then comes timing, which is just as important. You need to wait until your player is about to get past the nearest defender. That's the perfect moment. If you get the power, aim, and timing right, you'll break through your opponent's defense cleanly. So, how do we apply this in-game? Let's see. We have two main ways to aim our through balls, into space or at the running player. Let's look at the scenarios for both. Before that, there's one crucial element, creating the passing angle. In most basic through ball situations, your ball carrier will already have space, so it's easy to play the pass without much trouble. The real challenge is when your ball holder is under pressure. That's when you must protect the angle. Use what I call the fake to ignore technique. Pretend you're not interested in the through pass. Dribble away from the angle to sell the idea that you're doing something else, but keep an eye on your runner. Then, quickly dribble back and face your running player before the passing lane closes. Once you've created the angle and avoided pressure, you're ready to send that through ball. Now let's go through examples of where to aim exactly, aiming towards space. Here, I pass to my striker and trigger my winger using an L1 run. I control the ball into open space. There's no pressure, I'm dribbling freely, and the passing lane is clear. The opponent is tracking my winger, but as they move together, I recognize it's a wide run. On the wing, we always aim towards space. You can see here, I aim at the open area because the two center backs aren't reacting as quickly as a manually controlled defender should. I load about 2.5 to 3 bars of power, and boom, the ball flies into the open space. The fullback gets caught wide, my winger runs in behind, and I score. Another example. Again, I trigger my wingers run forward. With wide through passes aimed inside, we target the space because there's usually less defensive traffic on the wings. I use controlled sprint to push into open ground while defenders track back. Once I time the run correctly, I aim my left analog toward the inside space, not out wide, because the fullback is already committing outside. I use about 3.5 bars of power, and that perfectly pushes my winger to cut inside with the through ball. Lastly, when I already have a player running and no open space to dribble, I use controlled sprint sprint, wait for the perfect timing, and aim the left analog towards space. Center backs are often lazy with their recovery runs, that's why this works so well. Boom, I break the line and sprint straight toward goal. Aiming toward the running player. In this next scenario, I pass to my cam and trigger my winger to run. In midfield, the opponent usually has more players pressing, so expect pressure. I like using the fake to ignore again. I first dribble in the opposite direction, then turn back toward the passing angle. This time, I aim directly at my player, not at space, because here it's easier for him to receive and drive toward goal. Look at the power, almost 4 bars. The pass is strong, accurate, and perfectly matches the run. I get in behind and score. Another example, I send my striker on a run using an L1 pass. I'm dribbling away from the passing lane because I know pressure is coming from the nearest defender. As the opponent mirrors my movement, I turn back, face the lane, and aim directly at my player. The power is solid, and just like that, boom, the ball slices through, I control it, and finish. In another case, I pass to my winger and trigger my striker forward. I don't face the passing angle right away. Instead, I control the ball away to bait the opponent, making them forget about my runner. After faking, I perform a ball roll, face the angle, aim the analog toward the running player, and load almost 4 bars of power. Watch how the ball curves cleanly into the space behind the defense. Finally, if you struggle with timing or want to take your through passes to the next level, try using the player lock. You activate it by pressing R3 plus L3 at the same time. Once active, you can manually switch and control your running player. Use the right analog to switch away, move that player into open space, then press triangle to release the through ball. Mastering this adds a whole new dimension. It lets you create your own dangerous runs instead of waiting for AI movement. So go ahead and practice these overpowered player lock through balls. They're one of the most effective ways to break any defense in FC26. One-touch passing is one of the most powerful attacking mechanics in FC26. To use it effectively, you must always know your next move before receiving the ball. This is not random quick passing, it's controlled speed. You're connecting fast, natural passes that keep your attack flowing. The most important thing is to pass where your player's body is already facing. For example, if your player receives the ball while facing forward, play the next pass in that same direction. That's how you maintain rhythm without breaking momentum. Like, don't pass the ball towards the opposite direction of your player. Yes, sometimes it may work, but the ball is not played accurately, less powered, and it's a bad habit to exercise. Here's why it's overpowered. It gives your opponent no time to read or react. Defenders rely on micro-repositioning and player switching. One-touch passing completely denies them that chance. In high-pressure situations, one-touch passing keeps your attack alive because you're constantly moving the ball before the defender can close in. It speeds up your build-up play, keeps possession sharp, and when used inside the box, it's lethal. One quick combination, and you're through on goal. Finesse shots are a major meta in FC26, especially inside the box or when cutting inside from the wings. To perform a finesse shot, press R1 together with the shoot button. What makes finesse shots special is the curve and precision they provide. Unlike normal shots, finesse shots bend the ball around defenders and away from the keeper's reach. That's why top players rely on them. They're consistent, smooth, and extremely reliable in tight angles. Always remember to load enough power. Around 60-70% of the power bar is ideal. Too little, and the keeper catches it easily. Too much, and you'll sky it. These shots work best when your player's body is slightly open to goal. For instance, if you cut inside with your winger or cam, angle your body to the far post before finessing. The combination of timing, body position, and power is what makes finesse shots so dangerous. They're also great for finishing off fast attacks. 1 or 2 quick passes, then a composed finesse finish. In FC26, this shot type feels smooth, accurate, and one of the most consistent ways to score under pressure.